For years, modern football has been obsessed with visible dominance. Manchester City's possession grids, Real Madrid's Champions League aura, Bayern Munich's attacking volume. But beneath all that noise, something quieter has been forming in North London. At Arsenal, under Mikel Arteta, control is no longer just about keeping the ball. It is about deciding when the opponent is allowed to breathe. And that shift has turned them into one of the most structurally aggressive teams in Europe without always looking aggressive on the surface. The danger is no longer obvious. It is engineered in silence. This is not the Arsenal of chaotic pressing or emotional momentum. This is a system built on triggers, traps, and timing so precise that even elite midfielders disappear inside it. The most frightening part is not what Arsenal do with the ball, it is what they do the moment they lose it. To understand Arteta's Arsenal, you have to understand what control used to mean in elite football. Traditionally, control meant possession dominance, long sequences of passing, territorial occupation, and gradual fatigue of the opponent. But that definition has changed. Modern elite teams now compete for something more aggressive. Control without the ball, control through positioning, control through suffocation in transition moments. Arsenal have evolved into a team that does not simply press, they bait. They compress space intentionally, then activate pressure in synchronized waves. The structure often resembles a 4-3-3 in possession, but out of possession, it morphs into something far more deceptive, sometimes appearing like a compact 4-4-2 mid-block that suddenly collapses into man-oriented pressing traps. This transformation is where the real story begins. The most important area in Arteta's system is not the final third. It is the midfield corridor between the opposition's first and second line of build-up. This is where Arsenal construct what can only be described as a kill zone. At first glance, Arsenal sit in a mid-block. The front line is positioned to block central progression lanes while appearing passive. But this passivity is intentional. The trigger mechanism is always waiting. The pressing triggers are highly specific. A backwards pass from a pivot, a lateral pass into a fullback under pressure, a slightly heavy first touch in midfield. The moment one of these occurs, Arsenal's structure shifts instantly. The front three collapse inward, cutting off central passing angles. At the same time, one of the central midfielders steps aggressively into the ball carrier while the holding midfielder shifts laterally to seal the escape route. What looked like a 4-4-2 block becomes a man-oriented cage within seconds. This is not random pressing. It is coordinated spatial manipulation. Each player does not chase the ball. They eliminate options around the ball. The result is a midfield environment where elite playmakers are forced into rush decisions. Even technically secure teams begin to look uncomfortable because their usual passing geometry is destroyed before it forms. One of the most significant evolutions in Arsenal's recent structure is what happens immediately after these traps succeed. Winning the ball is not the end of the action. It is the beginning of a direct attacking phase. When Arsenal recover possession in these midfield zones, the transition is immediate and vertical. There is minimal resetting. The first instinct is forward progression into space that has already been pre-identified by the attacking structure. This has led to a noticeable increase in high turnovers that directly lead to shots or dangerous attacking sequences in transition. The key detail is not just winning the ball, it is where it is won and how quickly it becomes an attacking threat. The front three are positioned in advance to exploit the space behind the opposition's midfield line. This means turnovers do not require long possession chains. One or two passes can break entire defensive structures. It creates a psychological effect on opponents. Teams hesitate in build-up because they know the moment they misplace a pass in midfield, Arsenal are already positioned to punish them instantly. At the centre of this system is the holding midfielder role, which acts as both anchor and trap controller. This player does not simply protect the defence, he controls the spatial vacuum. When Arsenal press, the holding midfielder shifts into positions that block the safest passing lane out of pressure. This creates what can be described as a vacuum effect. The opposition thinks they have an outlet, but every passing lane leads back into congestion. Meanwhile, the front three and advanced midfielders coordinate their pressing angles to ensure that even backward progression becomes dangerous. The result is a situation where possession itself becomes a liability under pressure. This is where Arsenal differ from traditional pressing teams. They are not chasing the ball. They are designing environments where the ball has nowhere safe to go. Visually, Arsenal's shape is deceptive. On paper, it may resemble a stable 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, depending on the phase, but in reality, the structure is constantly rotating. Fullbacks often invert into midfield, creating overloads in central zones. Wingers tuck inside to compress passing lanes. One central midfielder advances while another drops, ensuring constant balance in rest defence. This rotation is what allows the pressing system to function without breaking shape. Even when Arsenal commit numbers forward, the rest defence remains compact enough to prevent counter-attacks. If you were to visualise it, a passing map would show dense clusters in midfield corridors, while a pressing intensity chart would highlight sudden spikes in central zones rather than uniform pressure across the pitch. The reason Arsenal feel so difficult to face is not because they dominate every phase. It is because they control the moments between phases. Most teams prepare for possession defence or counter-attacks. Arsenal blur the line between both. The moment you think you are building safely, the trap activates. The moment you think you are stable in midfield, space disappears. Even elite playmakers struggle because they are not given time to scan. Decision-making speed is forced down to survival level rather than creative level. This is where Arteta's evolution becomes clear. He is not building a team that reacts faster. He is building a team that removes time from the opponent entirely. Across Europe, tactical trends are shifting toward hybrid pressing systems. Pure high pressing is no longer sustainable across long seasons. Instead, teams are blending mid-block control with selective aggression. Arsenal sit at the forefront of this shift. They are not the most chaotic pressing team, nor the most possession-heavy. They are structurally balanced in a way that allows them to switch modes instantly. Academy systems are beginning to reflect this profile as well. Midfielders are no longer trained only for passing ability or physical dominance. They are trained for spatial awareness, pressing intelligence, and transition speed. Arsenal represent this new archetype, a team that wins games not just by attacking better, but by making opponents unable to build at all. And yet, the most interesting part of Arsenal's evolution is that it does not always look dominant. There are matches where they appear controlled rather than explosive, matches where possession is not overwhelming. But underneath that surface, the structure is always working, because this is not a system built for spectacle. It is built for inevitability. Everyone claims Manchester City or Real Madrid are the gold standard of modern football, but they're wrong. While the world stares at the flashy goals elsewhere, Mikel Arteta has quietly built a defensive monster that makes the rest of Europe look amateur. It's not luck, it's a genius tactical shift.